The National Congress of New Caledonia's pro-independence platform, the FLNKS, has been postponed due to major differences between its hardline components and its more moderate parties. A large group of CCAT militants turned up to the event at the weekend and were kept waiting in their vehicles on the road with the hope of being allowed to take part in the FLNKS Congress. New Caledonia government spokesperson Charles Ware says they were not allowed in due to security concerns and the whole meeting was called off.
There are many people who came, more than 200, and in terms of security, it was not a good thing to host the Congress and also to let effectively the different political parties to have more discussion.
Charles Ware says a meeting is to be held to decide on a new date for the FLNKS Congress meeting. I spoke with our correspondent on the French Pacific desk, Patrick de Cloyter, and began by asking him to explain the widening differences among New Caledonia's pro-independence groups. Can you explain or provide a breakdown as to why there are differences among New Caledonia's pro-independence groups?
So it's not really news to say that there are differences within the FLNKS, which is in itself a platform of pro-independence parties who was created 40 years ago. And the serious civil unrest that came at that time during the second half of the 1980s was actually ended with agreements again. And at that time, the charismatic leader who was leading the FLNKS was Jean-Marie Tjibaou. He was considered as one of the moderates within FLNKS. FLNKS is a gathering of parties which are Palika, Kanak Liberation Party, the Oceanian Progressist Parties, and the historic party, which is Union Caledonienne. And over that period, the Union Caledonienne was more and more considered as a hardline party. There are two trains of thoughts within the FLNKS. One is those parties, moderates, who are still considering that the best solution is to continue negotiating with France. And Union Caledonienne is the sort of hardline component, which more and more now tends to think that independence must come now. And the fact that the latest FLNKS Congress on Saturday was postponed again is a clear indication that these differences remain. As you know, last month, these more civil unrest erupted in New Caledonia. And if you go a little bit back in time, over the past few months, since last year actually, Union Caledonienne was trying to push their school of thoughts. And that's why they actually reactivated what they called a Field Action Coordination Cell, which is known locally as a CCAT, which is considered as the main driving force behind the riots of which started on 13 May. There was this Congress, an attempt again from the whole of FLNKS to find a common position. And what happened at this Congress on Saturday is that the Union Caledonienne came late, but came, the leaders, and they brought with them a very important group of members of this CCAT. And the local organizers happened to be on this particular Congress. The local organizers were Palika, and of course the custom chiefs and leaders of the host village. And they were only allowed 10 representatives from CCAT, which is not a member of FLNKS, but they said, okay, for 10. But there were many more coming on Saturday. They were kept outside the village on the road. There was a long line of vehicles, and it was a surprise for the organizers, the moderate organizers, and so they went straight into what about 1 hour meeting or so. And when they came out, the only decision that FLNKS could come up with was to say, we cannot allow that many CCAT members to take part in this Congress because it poses very real security reasons, security issues. And so that's why this Congress was postponed. That was the official term.
So then why is there a climate of fear among these moderates?
It's a syndrome from 40 years ago. In 1988, the Tjibaou, the charismatic leader of FLNKS, accepted to shake hands with the pro-France leader of that time, Jacques Lafleur. 1 year later, in 1989, he was shot down by members of the hardline faction of FLNKS. This seems to be part of history, but it's not really. It's still very vivid. It seems that at this time, even if the Palika, for instance, party, or the other ones, more moderates also, want to resume the talks with the French government and the pro-France parties with the intentions to arrive to a consensus and a compromise on the future of New Caledonia. Even though there is this will, it's obvious. And these guys also from the moderate parties are still calling for calm in New Caledonia. There is a very real climate of fear as well, because they can't help remembering what happened to Jean-Marie Tjibaou.
Appreciate that, Patrick. Yeah, a great insight into the current situation with the moderates. Now, I'm just gonna, change tack slightly with our interview, but can you explain what impacts the riots has had on New Caledonia's economy, and can the territory make a full recovery?
It's a good question, because now we know there are sort of persistent figures that say basically that there's about 600 companies and businesses that have been looted, vandalized, burnt down. There's more than 7,000 people in New Caledonia who have lost their jobs as a result of that. The total figure for the damages, now we hear more and more the figures from the Chamber of Industry, which says it's well over 1 billion euros, if not 1.5 billion. And obviously this has immediate repercussions for the New Caledonia economy. The local government of New Caledonia is also calling for assistance from France. There is a kind of solidarity set up by Paris on that one, especially for the companies, and to help taking care of jobless grants, but this is not as enough to cover all the expenses and the damages and compensations that jobless people would hope to get. And certainly New Caledonia cannot really take care of all that burden, additional burden. On top of that, there is also an existing situation which is obviously being compounded by the latest riots, and that is that over the 3 or 4 past years, New Caledonia has been faced with cash flow problems. And last week, again, the government of New Caledonia was writing to Paris to ask for emergency assistance of at least maybe 300 million euros just to be able to pay for their staff and their public service to allow it to continue functioning normally. Because if nothing is done, according to them, by the end of this month, they won't be able to pay for their staff anymore. And the airport was set to reopen yesterday. They said the access road between Nouméa and the airport had finally been kind of secured, but it looks like it's not always the case. So they're trying to reschedule the flights only in the daytime, not at night. And bearing in mind that they've sort of relaxed a little bit the rules of the curfew, which used to be from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now it's 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.